All right, welcome back to another edition of the Three Stooges Podcast. Joe Davidson, Chris Jackson, Jordan Georgeson, who's repping his Florida State gear. I guess they won some kind of big game this weekend. Whatever. We'll let him gloat. We'll let him have his flowers. But we're talking high school football in the Sac-Joaquin section and the Bay Area, and with a feel of the whole state as well. All the storylines. And we're going to break down some of the big games that we just saw. Chris Jackson was in San Mateo to see Serra Padres, the number one ranked team in Northern California for 3 years until last year, and they went to the Open Division state championship. So they're big boys. Can Folsom finally win? I think people know that Folsom won. Chris will break that down for us. Jordan's going to break down some of the big games this week, some in Placer County, none bigger than a decades old rivalry that's kind of kicked back into gear. The Del Oro Golden Eagles of Loomis and the Placer Hillman of Auburn. That's a big one there. And we'll touch on what Sacramento State did in its opener. Caden Pinnick, the pride of Del Oro, has a big game in the second half for UC Davis. The Aggies, top 10 ranked in FCS, so that we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about some of the behavior of some coaches toward the media is not the enemy here, and just chill out, people. So we're going to touch on all these topics, and we have game balls to give out. I've got a whole case of them over here. Chris has got some, Jordan, and we got players from small schools, large schools, wherever. We're going to hand out game balls and all that. But first of all, Chris Jackson. The Folsom Bulldogs, we saw what they did in the season opener on ESPN against Grant. They looked all world. Ryder Lyons is doing good things. Then he's hobbling around against San Mateo, but then he does something what he always does. He finds a way. What did he finish with touchdowns, yards wise, and what was the score and why is it so important?
Folsom won this game 56-42, and this was their one kryptonite of Northern California. They've beaten De La Salle in the past. They've beaten Pittsburgh, just like the 2023 NorCal Championship, but that team they could not beat. That coach they cannot beat, Serra and Patrick Walsh. As head coach Paul Doherty said after the game, asked him, what does this mean for Folsom? It means we've taken that next step because they've beaten all these other programs. They've won state championships, but the one thing that's eluded them is Serra, and that's the team, one of the teams you want to beat if you want to get to that open division. Like Folsom mentioned last year, like Folsom mentioned this year as well. They want to be the best team in NorCal, and to beat a team like Serra, that goes a long way to doing that with these two wins. But a 56-42 win. Ryder Lyons was Ryder Lyons. He scored 7 total times, 4 times through the air, 3 times on the ground. He had 306 passing yards at halftime as Folsom scored on 5 of 6 drives. The first possession, they go 3 and out. After that, this looked like Folsom football at its finest. Driving down the field, big play here, big play there, consistency. They scored 35 points in that first half. It's 35-25. You think, okay, they block a field goal. You think they've got a chance to put this game away. Then right away, Serra pick six, Giovanni Henley, a 3-star prospect there, 35-32. Folsom doesn't score for a while. Ryder Lyons, after that first half, does not have a completion in the second half until 7 minutes remain in this ball game. And a lot of that, too, is because of what Serra does in Folsom's offense. They're throwing the ball more this year. Last year was a lot more balanced. They were running the ball a lot, throwing the ball a lot, but the game plan called for, and some of this team calls for throwing the ball a lot more, especially those athletes you've got. When you've got Isaiah Williams, you've got Jamison Powell, who just had 219 yards and 3 scores in this game. Rob Larson, 105 yards in the touchdown. You've got Jaden Padgett, 6'4", 6'5" senior, who's really come into his own, had 4 big catches. But Folsom went down. They were down 39-35. Ryder Lyons, you can tell he's not 100%. In fact, I would say he's probably not close to it. He's hobbling around, doesn't look healthy at all. Paul Doherty calls a timeout. He's like, I think I might take you out of this game. And Ryder says no. So then what does Folsom's offensive line coach style up? Well, he says, you know what? Run the ball. So Ryder Lyons somehow looks perfectly healthy on this 10-yard touchdown run to go ahead. But Sarah's kicker, Saul Marks, looks like a 5-star. Hits a 53-yarder that would have cleared 65. And I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. He ties it, but then Jamison Powell gets wide open, a 52-yard touchdown, a breakdown in coverage, and then E.J. Coleman's pick six. But this was Folsom football getting one of its biggest wins in program history. They've won 5 state titles. They've won big games over De La Salle and Pittsburgh, but they've never beaten a team like Serra that puts them one step closer to being NorCal's top team. There's a lot of other things that have to happen. How does De La Salle do this year? How does Folsom do the rest of this year? How does Folsom fare at Mission Viejo this week? He was nationally ranked 12 in one poll, I think top 15 in another. But Ryder Lyons gutted it out. Folsom is deep. This team is loaded at every position. And when it mattered most, that defense stepped up those final couple of drives to kind of give Folsom that huge win. And you could see Folsom fans were everywhere on the field. Parents, fans, they were around that team circle, that team huddle for maybe 30 minutes after the game, just smiling, celebrating. Little kids want to take photos with Ryder Lyons, with Rob Larson, all those guys asking for autographs. And that was Folsom's biggest win yet. Now 2-0, beat Grant, beat Serra, and they have a legitimate case to say that they are the number one team in Northern California.
Yeah, well said. It's good that you were down there. It looked like a hot day down there. And Jordan, let's start handing out game balls. And I would imagine you might have one somewhere in your stash for the effort that you saw Sean Jones of the Placer Hillman deliver the other night. What did he do, and how impressed with you were you with him? And you had your clipboard and you're keeping stats. This guy was just chewing up yards. Size up what he did.
Yeah, this was one of the most dominant rushing performances I can remember seeing. I mean, the only other three, he had 30 carries. I charted him at 324 yards. I think I saw another chart had him at like 298 or something like that. But everything I've seen says between 298 and 300. Either way, when you're approaching that three number, I mean, I've only seen one other player get 300 yards in person. That was Karan Borders of Antelope, actually against Placer, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And that was another just dominant rushing performance. But what stood out to me was actually just some of the stats from it. So 324 yards on 30 carries is already impressive enough. He had 15 carries going for 10 or more yards. I mean, that's just unstoppable at that point. And those of you familiar with Placer, you know they run that wing tee. And there's just something enjoyable about watching a team run the ball down someone's throat when you know they're going to run it and there's nothing that they can do to stop it. Um, and I got to give the game ball to Sean Jones for that, but I got to give actually a few for that game because, I mean, an offensive line that blocked for a team that ran for 497 yards is, you deserve a collective game ball right there for that unit. Then Danny Sanchez Harlow, he was solid as well with them. He had 115 yards on the ground with only 11 carries. Alex Jones also, he had 55 yards and a touchdown. Then he also had an interception on the 2 yard line that really kind of swung the momentum. And then also on the other side of that game too, quarterback Jaden Debs of Laguna Creek, he had 346 yards and a touchdown. He was slinging that ball around there too. And Ryan Eddy, 7 catches, 110 yards. And he added 40 yards and a touchdown run. So a lot of star power in that game. Just a fun game to watch. I mean, if you haven't been up to Auburn to watch a game, it's one of the best high school environments you're going to find. Placer, a team that looks like they have not, they lost a lot of production from last year, but they're not going anywhere because 49-34 win for them. And that's a Laguna Creek team that if you guys haven't seen them yet, that is a team to keep an eye on because they are a lot better than what you typically think of when you think Laguna Creek football. They've got some athletes on that team and they will absolutely be a group that's making some noise. And then I got to give another game ball shout out on the college end. I did the American River game on Saturday, and there was a linebacker for College of Sequoias, Seattle, Washington, named Pana Tupatala. He had 10 tackles, seemed to be flying everywhere, 2 interceptions with 52 return yards, and one of them was a pick six. And I've got to give him credit because we talk about how much we see guys take over a game, and that kid took over that game from his middle linebacker position. So that's another game ball I've got to give out. And we've given a lot of shout outs on here, so I guess I'll actually go one more because I missed this team last week. Dylan Nell deserved one for last week for Lincoln with 3 touchdowns, and then his quarterback this last Friday night, 5 touchdowns in a win over Woodland, 48-12 for the Lincoln Fighting Zebras. So Placer County has been looking good so far, lighting up the scoreboard in these first couple weeks.
How about that? I'm going to do a couple game balls. I'm going to give one to the entire Grant Pacers team. They looked all business after getting worked over by the Folsom Bulldogs the previous week. 42-26 win for Grant over Central East, the number one team in Fresno in the Central section. Sheeran Crump, more than 300 yards passing. Zoe Edwards, Kobe Shabazz, the run game, the offensive line, they were all fantastic. So Big job, great bounce back for the Grant Pacers. Also, a whole case of game balls for the Ponderosa Bruins, who beat the Castle Roble Ram towards the end of the game. That helped, but just outstanding job for Davy Johnson. They're in our rankings now. Best start they've had in years. But Chris Jackson, game balls, keep it going.
Yeah, let's go down to Stockton. Cesar Chavez High School, led by an alumnus, Derek Graves. He won some games at Kimball High School in Tracy. He's back at his alma mater. Chavez now 2-0. They beat Escalon. Chavez saying maybe their best win in program history, and their running back, Joel Donnell. 11 carries, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he averaged 24.7 yards per carry, and he had a 97-yard run in there. They have a three-star receiver, Jackson Batch, who had a touchdown catch. McConnell Smith, 6 catches, 92 yards, a touchdown. Elijah Walker, sophomore quarterback, threw for a couple of scores, completed 65% of his balls. Congrats to Chavez. Congrats to Derek Graves. Off to a heck of a start again after a playoff appearance. And that's a program that's had tough seasons in the past. Winless campaigns, hard to get wins. And IUC Chavez is becoming a public school to know about in Stockton and the Sac-Joaquin section. If you keep going south, go down to Houston, 2-0. They graduated, let's just say, an all-time senior class. You had Robert McDaniel. He's now at San Jose State. He was a 4-star quarterback. There was a 3-star in Max Mankins. They graduated, one of the best classes that's ever rolled through there. They're right back. They're 2-0. Their freshman quarterback, Hudson Baldwin, threw a touchdown. Eli Wilbanks, 195 rushing yards, and Valente Soria, 46 receiving yards. They played well, got an overtime win over Atwater, who had beaten Vacaville the week prior. And Joe, I'm with you. Grant deserves one. Folsom deserves one. And how about Liberty Ranch getting another big win over Linden? Linden had defeated Destiny Christian the week prior. Liberty Ranch, though, huge game. They were up 37-7 at halftime, won 44-7, and guess what? Their run game popped off. Andrew Quinn, 166 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. And speaking of big run games, Oakdale had that too. 3 guys over 100 rushing yards. West Burford almost hit 300. They had 606 as a team. Richard Flores, Chase Lopez, all those guys over 100 yards. Oakdale puts up 70 points in a win over Lincoln of Stockton. Those are my game balls. And look, small schools, big schools. There's not many that have it like the Sac-Joaquin section.
Well, we got it good. Jordan, I'm going to hog this attention here a little bit more than throw it to you. I know you got more game balls. Speaking of small school excellent, the Bradshaw Christian Pride of South Sacramento, small school wonders. They do it again in a big win over Vista Del Lago, 50-28. Mason Pizarski, 24 carries, 252 yards, 2 touchdowns. What a great effort. We know that Bradshaw Christian graduated the house. They still have runners. We appreciate that. Another small school guy, Andrew Salguero of Marysville, 15 carries, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns, 21-0 win over Rio Linda. Another small school, Cesar Granados of Mesa Verde, 24 carries, 173 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, and an 18-13 win over the Cordova Lancers. Josiah Melendez, Wood Creek, 17-21 passing, 280 something yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns rushing, 37-20 over Whitney. Keep it going, Jordan. We got so many game balls here. We're just throwing them out there.
Let's go some big school ones and some small school ones. Rockland's Reeves Sloan, another 3-touchdown performance as they go into Reno and beat Bishop Manogue. That's been a powerhouse over in Nevada for the last few years. Huge win for the Thunder, which are now 2-0. And I think there's a lot of people that were wondering what's Rockland going to look like now that they graduated all that production. Well, 2-0 with a lopsided win over Turlock and a win on the road over Manogue. I think the Thunder aren't going anywhere. Then let's go to some small schools. Forest Hill. Forest Hill is 2-0 for the second time in program history. They won 1 game by forfeit beginning of the year, but then Friday night they go into Florin and win 48-6. Waylon Gossick, 4 touchdowns, 12-17 passing. Vincent Navarro, 17 carries, 147 yards, and a touchdown. Shout out to Forest Hill for that. And then let's go right back to Lincoln, the Raging Rhinos of 12 Bridges. They had an impressive performance beating Reed out of Reno as well. Another Nevada powerhouse. 12 Bridges was down, I think it was 21-8 or 24-8, something like that in this game at one point. They end up winning 45-31. Let's give a shout out to their rushing attack. 47 carries, 319 yards, and 5 touchdowns as a team. Bradley Kirby had 2 of them. Josh Chittum, 11 carries, 70 yards, touchdown. Chase Wolidko, 10 carries, 80 yards, touchdown. Matthew Marquez led the charge, 18 carries, 128 yards. And then Connor Frontera, the quarterback, had a touchdown run and pass as well. Raging Rhinos now, was it 22 straight regular season wins? I mean, this is a team that I think we also kind of wondered what the production was going to look like there. And then another game ball from this game, because I'm sure everyone has seen the video of it yet, but if not, Will Gant made one of the most incredible catches in the back of the end zone that I've ever seen for a touchdown. Just jumps up, snags it one-handed over some defenders, gets the feet in bounds. And that was kind of a turning point for the Rhinos. So another shout out to them there. I mean, it's been a fun one. Then I'll give a team shout out. Bear River, they fell to Truckee on the road. Truckee, another school that's been a powerhouse in those Nevada rankings, that fell 41-20. And if you know the state of what Truckee football has been and how many guys Bear River is returning, that was an eye-opening result for me, because even though they lost, they held their own against a pretty strong Truckee team. And that's impressive for a first-year coach replacing a lot of their talent.
These are great. Kudos to us for giving out game balls to us for giving out game balls, including teams who show a lot in defeat. And, we know it's always wins or losses, but hey, in this sport, coaches, we've talked to coaches over the years, all of us, that they can live with the results as long as the effort is there. And so I appreciate our acknowledgement to Bear River and all those guys. And it's really, that's what makes it fun. What can Bear River do? What can Ponderosa do? The Bruins, and it might be their best team since the 2017 that won a playoff game over B number 1 ranked Grant. And Jason Tenner was the coach then for Ponderosa. Within a couple of years, that community had turned on him. And then he coaches at a couple different places. Now he's the founding coach at West Park, the rising fast powerhouse in Roseville. And he's talked about, boy, you appreciate being at places where they appreciate you. And so sometimes the fit is there, sometimes it isn't, but he learned some tough lessons there. And in a little bit, we're going to talk about the media interactions with coaches. Sometimes it's a bit boorish. Mostly it's really positive as we talk to them, but sometimes you see some just unacceptable behavior. But we'll get that. We'll probably end the podcast on that. Let's look ahead a little bit and talk about some of these games this week. We've got a great a menu of games, and I think the biggest game in this region is not local. It's the Folsom Bulldogs, Sacramento #1, NorCal #1 at Mission Viejo, state powerhouse there. Chris Jackson alluded on this earlier. What a great game. This is a state championship type vibe and feel. And in my rankings package that's going to run later today, I mentioned that ambitious scheduling is big now for our powerhouse programs. And Jordan, you'll be really curious about this. We had a sample of it in 1980. The Placer-Hillman were a state powerhouse in Division II. Tom Johnson, co-coach with Bill Miller, who's the grandfather of Joey Montoya, the longtime Placer coach. And in 1980, they scheduled a season opener, the Hillman, against Mission Viejo, which was ranked 4th in the state. And what are you doing? Let's give it a shot. Let's elevate our program before this was even thought of. And both of those coaches for Placer had some Southern California roots, so they knew that, the programs. They went down there in the season opener, and the Placer-Hillman won 6-0 on an interception return. And Placer went 11-0 and was ranked state #1 at the end of the season by Cal High Sports. This is before the state football playoffs. But here we are all these years later, and here comes Mission Viejo again. I think it's fabulous. We've talked about schools that schedule ambitiously right there. So I'm going to pick a couple of games and give a quick winner. I think Folsom continues its momentum. it's a real X factor with Ryder Lyons. I think that guy could have a broken fibula and he would probably find a way to win. I think Ryder Lyons grits it out. I think Folsom makes a big statement win at Mission Viejo. Another one I'm going to touch on is going to be Pleasant Valley of Chico, the number one rated team in the CIF Northern Section, which stretches up to the Oregon border. They've been the powerhouse up there. They have gone with ambitious scheduling to try to up their program. This week, they're taking on the Inderkum Tigers in Natomas. I like Inderkum to win this. I think they're going to just be a little bit more faster and more skilled, though Pleasant Valley just beat Central Catholic of Modesto. So there we go. So there's a couple games there. Um, Chris Jackson, toss us a couple games and a quick winner, and then Jordan, you follow.
Yeah, I'm loving the schedule. Jordan, I'll keep you. I'll let you have that game of Placer Del Oro in your region, but there's a lot of ones. I'm going to Lathrop Patterson on Friday evening. Lathrop can run the ball like no other. Pablo Pena, a 2,000-yard guy. Patterson, yes, 0-2, but look at who they've scheduled. They've scheduled Merced, a close loss. Cal High out of the East Bay Athletic League, one of the best in the state, a 3-point loss. Patterson's got some guys. Royale Tago, he's a outside backer, defensive end, just got a Sacramento State offer. They have a Sac State commit on the O line. And Jaden Jefferson's younger brother, the guy that ran a 10:05, 10:06 at De La Salle going to North Carolina, his younger brother is already starring. I'll take Patterson. They exercise those demons. They've scheduled tough teams for a reason. I think Patterson wins a close one in Lathrop to get that victory. Inderkum hosting Pleasant Valley, a huge game there. I think Inderkum's got a shot. What they just showed against Marin Catholic, that grit, getting the 2-point stand, I think Inderkum gets this win at home. And how about Monterey Trail? Talk about great scheduling. Monterey Trail hosting Amador Valley, who's coming off a close loss to Vanden. Amador Valley, a defending NorCal champ, has some guys, but Monterey Trail, after beating Inderkum, those types of big wins, I like Monterey Trail at home. It's been great times for the section. You look at Vanden beat Amador Valley. I should have given them a game ball. Kamani Dokes, the Wood transfer, game-winning touchdown catch in that. Vanden had that big win. Manteca goes to Cardinal Newman, wins 40-7. It's a great last weekend for the section. This could be another great weekend. You could look at Oakdale, Escalon, Oakdale running for over 600 yards, looking really good. I would take them in that game. And then Grant going down to Cardinal Newman. How about a tale of 2 weeks, right? Grant was, let's face it, they were publicly humiliated and embarrassed on national television. If you read everything you saw, right, it was not Grant football. They did not play their best. There was stuff that happened pregame. Grant acknowledged it. They acknowledged it all of last week. And what did we say? What defines Grant is their response. I don't know if you could respond better to adversity, to the whole world coming at your school, coming at your city, than the way you did, especially Sharon Crump. 18-26, right, Joe? Over 300 yards. That kid goes from a tough first start against Folsom to that. And an offensive line, they have Zoe Edwards, Kobe Shabazz, the guys they have on defense, Julian Bruno, Giovanni Hodge, you name it. Grant's got a chance now to keep kind of running this table these next few weeks. There's a reason they've been to 3 state championships in a row. There's a reason why they've won 2 of those. One loss does not define them clearly. So Grant as well should get probably 50 game balls for that response, because there's a lot of adults who could not have responded the way those kids just responded.
Well said. Jordan, anything going up in Placer County this week?
We've got some really fun FVL versus SFL showdowns, and both of these I think are going to be doozies. Let's start with the one everyone is thinking about, the 2 football schools in Placer County. Well, several football schools, but the 2 big football schools in the foothills that people think of, Del Oro and Placer. This rivalry got revived, I think, 3 years ago for the first time in 2 decades, and it came back with a grudge right away. These 2 teams have no love lost for each other. These 2 communities definitely still want to beat each other. I think this one is going to be an awesome game. I think Del Oro's strengths are really good at attacking some soft spots Placer has. I think Placer's strengths are really good at attacking some soft spots Del Oro has. So I really think this is going to come down to whoever gets the ball last. If you're asking me right now, I'm honestly flip-flopping back and forth on this game every day. If you ask me today, my gut tells me Del Oro gets the kind of that momentum going of putting themselves back on the scene. So I'm going to pick them for now. But if you ask me Thursday night, I might be saying Placer by then. I mean, who knows? I think this game's going to go down to the wire. And then keeping it in the FVL, SFL, just down the road, two schools separated by maybe 500 yards, 12 Bridges and Whitney, literally on the same street pretty much. Just one city sign right in between them. I think the quarterbacks can throw the ball in between the two schools. They can play catch with each other. But that's going to be a fun one, too. 12 Bridges quarterback Connor Frontiera, Whitney quarterback Carson Floyd, two of the better gunslingers in this area. I expect a lot of fireworks here, but I'm going to go with the Raging Rhinos. A couple other fun ones. Rockland going down to Lincoln of Stockton. Rockland's going to be without head coach Jason Adams, serving his 1-game suspension for the sanctions that we talked about in previous episodes. But they've got quarterback Reeve Sloan with 6 touchdown passes in 2 games. This is going to be a tough one, but I think Rockland gets it. Couple other ones. We talked about them earlier in the week, and this was a game that wasn't necessarily on my radar last week, but with what happened, now it is. Bear River, after holding their own against Truckee for a bit, and then Union Mine sitting at 0-2. They're going to be desperate to make a statement and try to get this win over Bear River, but I think Bear River is actually going to come in, and I think there's a chance they can go in and beat the Diamondbacks. I'm going to pull a upset card and say the Bruins get Union Mine, and it's crazy because, I mean, who would have thought Union Mine could be staring at an 0-3 start, but that's not necessarily a testament of what Union Mine is. That's a very good team, but we talk about it, tough scheduling. I love what they still have going up there. And then a couple other ones. Granite Bay Vista Del Lago. I think this is a very fun game. I would love to see these two play more. I think this is the second or third year now they've done this home and home. I love they keep scheduling it. Granite Bay impressed me a lot with its close loss to Pittsburgh. I know it's not the Pittsburgh team of last year, but I think Isaiah N.A. is the edge in this one. Granite Bay gets it. And then how about this? The oldest school in Roseville against the youngest school in Roseville going up against each other. West Park and Roseville. Can we call this one the Rose Bowl? I feel like we have to. West Park, a team that's been looking to get its offense going. Roseville, a team that's bitten by the injury bug. I think West Park gets things going a little bit here and hands Roseville its first loss of the season.
Well done, well done. And that's the game I'm going to cover for the Sacramento Bee, West Park at Roseville, new school, old school. And I think I'm going to steal that, the Rose
I
Bowl.
like
And,
it.
and no matter what happens, we're going with it. And in fact, I borrowed one of your headlines last year when 12 Bridges was going into the state championship. You had a headline, all the rage. But you had it weeks earlier, and I said, I'm using it. We're going to use it. That's their
We
mascot.
all borrow
Yeah,
from
we're
each
we're
other in
among
this
family and
business.
friends here, yes, and so it's a friendly form of plagiarism. So, here's one more, just for fun, since we're having fun with this. The Bellarmine Bells of the Central Coast section out of San Jose, long time, decades-long powerhouse at the Jesuit Marauders. Jesuit with their night games now, great atmosphere as compared to the old apathetic, dry Saturday games, and Bellarmine showed that it's been a dominant program over the years. 20 West Catholic Athletic League championships to their history, 8 Central Coast Section championships to their history. They had a coach who won 240 games, won a NorCal championship 2023, and then went winless last year. How can that happen? It happens. It happens, but they're 1-0, so they're right back. This is a great game of Jesuit schools, so I like the Marauders to win that at home. But what's the old cliche? Going to ring some bells and all that. But sometimes even the private schools take a dip. And how do you respond? And some of these schools are just too proud to stay down for too long. But man almighty, do we not have great football at the small school level, the medium school level, the large school level, the big state ranked powerhouses, the schools that are trying to get going. We applaud it. We're going to continue to throw game balls. We're going to throw a couple game balls here in college. Caden Pinnock, we touched on him earlier. The pride of Del Oro High School. He wins the starting job at UC Davis. Their first game was in Montgomery, Alabama against FCS ranked Mercer of Georgia. He has a good game, good debut, but none of it counts. It was ruled a no contest, lightning strike, repeated lightning strikes, and it's unusual. What's a no contest means? It never was played. So he comes back and has 3 touchdown drives in the second half to rally from 24-7 down at Utah Tech in Utah and wins 31-24. Caden Pinnock is on his game. Sacramento State will get game ball sometime this year. Might be maybe when they get some touchdowns, but they lost at FCS ranked number 3 South Dakota State 20-3. The Aggies, let me get that phone real quick. The Aggies play at the Seattle Huskies this week. Tough order for UC Davis. And Sacramento State visits Nevada, which is a tough order. These are considered money games where the FBS teams pay out some $500,000 to play somebody. And sometimes the team that's supposed to take the pounding winds up winning the game and taking the check. That happened a couple of years ago, a few years ago, with the Sac State went down to Stanford and won that game. So we'll see what happens there. I don't think we have any games of note on Saturday, but let's hope also that we have some sideline behavior by coaches that aren't so aggressive, defensive, and just poor behavior. I haven't experienced anything this year. I know that Jordan, whether it's at a baseball game, softball game, Chris Jackson last year at a Sac High game, sometimes people get punchy. They want to see credentials. Sometimes umpires are trying to tell you to move. Sometimes you get these restless assistant coaches trying to pull a power move. But Chris Jackson, I'm going to go to you. Somebody from your West Coast Preps staff in Fresno, and she, and emphasis on she, is trying to do her job, and she's run into roadblocks and unfair. And so what are we doing, coaches? Let's have dialogue. We're not out to get you, but we've overheard coaches, and we talked about this last week on this podcast. Coaches will tell their junior varsity kids, they'll tell their varsity kids, "Hey, these referees are out to get you. The media doesn't like it." That's rubbish, and that's where it all starts. So what happened down in Fresno, Chris, and speak on the whole theme. This is just not allowed.
Yeah, I think our reporter was the only one at this game on Saturday night, right? That there was an assistant coach for the program that was super gracious, super excited. We're there, our staff's there. Everything's going well until post, right? And the opposing team kind of coach is upset at the head coach of the home team. They're upset about something. I think player safety, some type of stuff that happened in the game. Okay, so then the head coach then just berates our reporter, starts yelling at her, "What are you doing here? Where are your passes? How did the athletic director let you in?" All this stuff. Our reporter's like, "What the heck's going on?" Assistant coach comes up and apologizes to her, saying he does this all the time. "I'm super sorry. Let me set up interviews with the kids for you." Again, feel awful about this, but he does this all the time, which is obviously a concern, hearing that he does this a lot, right? So then our reporter's finishing the interview, is walking out of the stadium, and he is just staring her down, right? Just staring her down, disrespectful, this and that. Why you would act like that to a reporter that's covering your game, the only one that's at your school covering this game, I'm not sure. You see it. We've probably seen it more the last few years at different spots, right? Like Jordan, I know you've had people give you crap, yell at you. I think you had somebody kind of telling you not to be near the coach's box, and you weren't in the coach's box at all. I had the situation last year at a game where it was post surgery. I am 3 weeks out of surgery, 4 weeks out of surgery. I'm able to walk and all that stuff, but I'm walking slow, right? Like that surgery took about 6 months to fully recover from. I have to walk through and around to get to the other side of the field, right? To get more photos, videos. Coach just start telling me, "You can't be in the box. You can't be near us, this and that. How dare you?" So I just respond, "You want to see my wound? Like, seriously, you want to see the wound from my surgery?" He did not like that. There's nothing else I can say. I'm trying to cover your kids still when I'm not at full strength and probably not even 20% healthy.
Did you drop your drawers? I mean, what kind of surgery was it? Hernia?
I had back surgery, so it
Oh,
was
okay. Well, the backside, but yes.
no.
And so how do you, so if Jordan's wandering in some coaching box, might have done a better job coaching. So I've run into this over the years, not as much recently. I don't know why. Maybe I'm not as combative and argumentative. I mean, you guys look like you have an expression of discontent. I mean, you just
Always.
look like,
We're
I mean,
never happy at a
shows
football
up,
game.
Jordan looks like trouble. Chris shows up, like, here comes trouble. I think people look at me and say, "Oh, there's a nice man right there." But no, I've run into referees where they're trying to clear people out.
Yeah.
And, come on. I mean, there was a referee, Jose Luis Villegas is our longtime award-winning photographer. We did the season opener, Placer at Casa Roble, and the referees struggled in that first game, the JV game. Chris, you were there, and so he tells the side judge before, during warm-ups, goes, "Hey, let's have a good clean game," and he snaps, "You get out here and do this." And it's like, no, guy, you are missing the point here. And so they're all on edge. But our issue here isn't the referees, it's the coaches. And I think, Chris, you took some action and reached out to to the school, correct?
There will be various complaints filed. It just,
And this is tied to the Fresno situation last week.
yeah, and there just needs to be, we can't call ourselves leaders of men, leaders of young men, leaders of kids, but act like kids ourselves. That just can't happen. That's unacceptable. We all make mistakes. We all do, right? But there's a way to go about it, a way to respond. Heck, maybe things change and they learn from it and apologize. There's very much a possibility there. Maybe it is a one-off, right? I will say though, 99.9% of times, everything is great. People are super nice. Coaches are super respectful, awesome. Parents, referees. I've had a lot of conversations with refs in game during timeouts, just about life, whatnot, everything else. But sometimes they're just one bad apple, unfortunately, can ruin a whole tree, right? Is the saying that goes. And it sucks that you have to see this behavior, but I definitely will not let this behavior of one coach speak for the rest of the people that have been great to us this year at games, that have been nothing but respectful. The Chris Horners, the Joey Montoyas, the Paul Dohertys, the Patrick Walshes of the world. There's way more of those than there are of those bad seeds.
Oh, that's well said. And on that theme of just way more of those than others, my big story the other day, I did the Davis Blue Devils played the McClatchy Lions at Hughes Stadium. And on the surface, you might go, why are you doing that? Well, because Davis and McClatchy are two academic powerhouse schools, big enrollment. They're very good in a lot of sports, but they've struggled in football over the years, low roster numbers. And so my whole theme of the story is that a lot of times, and we've touched on this podcast, is a lot of times when a team struggles in football, the perception is, well, the whole school must be in the pits. No, not for these schools. And um, for all the Folsoms and St. Mary's and Oak Ridges and the SFL teams and the 12 Bridges and the Placers, for all those schools that are the haves and they're doing well and they've got huge roster numbers, the most schools or the opposite. You think about that. And so we're always going to hand out game balls. And here's another crate of game balls to the McClatchy Lions, who won that thrilling game over Davis the other night. Really an impressive game. And we've touched on this too, guys, is what's the key to high school football and how do you get fans and the rooting section out there? Have a competitive, entertaining team. Perfect example is Laguna Creek. They're 0-2. But as Jordan has said, that's an entertaining team. They will get fans because people want to be entertained. And so McClatchy's home vibe at Hughes Stadium, what better high school venue is there than Hughes Stadium? They had cheerleaders, they had dance teams, they had the band was on the track, they had student rooting section. I'm thinking, there you go. And they're 2-0 and they're excited about it. So that's the whole formula. And what our aim in this podcast is to continue to highlight those. And I was on their sidelines right during before kickoff. Nobody was kicking me off. They were glad to chit chat for a moment. They get it. They understand it. And I think sometimes we have schools and coaches who are so spoiled with success, and then they get, there's a little angst, and they just unload on everybody. They're unloading on the referees. They're unloading on their players. They're unloading anybody they could find. Misguided and not acceptable. So good stuff there, guys. And we sized up next week. We gave out game balls to everybody. There's always going to be more team of the week type of thing. If I had a team of the week, I think I would go with the Ponderosa Bruins. Jordan, any closing thoughts? Chris, any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
I've got to give one team of the week to Adventure Christian. They we talked about last week how they kind of had to, forego their non-league stuff to make sure guys were ready. Well, they're still trying to get the pads on, and I saw the head coach post something on Facebook. The kids were in uniform. They basically played a scrimmage. So, even though they had to cancel some of the games, they got to play a scrimmage against another school in full uniform, simulate a real game. First time in school history a school football team's taken the field there. Got to give a game ball to that because that's just admirable. A lot of these kids never played football before. Fun to see new programs kind of starting.
I'll
Good
give
job, Chris Jackson.
our team of the week will be, because we're doing team of the week now with Scott Tedman, right? We got the team of the week chain going. We've got Scott Tedman and I going out to Houston this evening. Houston will be the team of the week. 2-0, 3 straight section titles to then being 2-0 this year with the big one over Atwater. They've got a freshman quarterback. They've got some great seniors. They got a Fresno State commit. That's a wide receiver / tight end. His older brother is the quarterback at San Jose State. Excited to go down there and I will say, I think my favorite Mexican restaurant, and my favorite barbecue spot, I think are actually in Houston as well. So great football, great people, great atmosphere, and great food. So how the heck can
See,
you beat that?
well, and you know what? I think the aim here is, hey, there's a Houston Huskies football team, but there's good eating on the way. And if anybody gives you any problem, start showing your battle scars. Say, hey, I had surgery. You're lucky I'm here. That's what I'm going to do. Hey, I'm going to drop my trousers and show you my wounds here. But hey, we'll keep fighting the good fight. For Joe Davidson, Chris Jackson, Jordan Georgeson, we're the Three Stooges. We don't always take ourselves seriously, but we take our job seriously, and we appreciate our role in local journalism and telling stories, and having a good time with it. Guys, you're the best. Game balls to each other, game balls to me. I'll take them. You take them. We'll autograph them. We'll try to sell them on eBay. No takers. That's all right. We won't be offended. But guys, the best to you. We'll be in touch.